Welcome to Season 4 of the RebelRebel Podcast, a podcast for creative rebels and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Michael Dargy. Season 4 is going to be epic, with amazing guests from all over the world sharing their stories and advice on how to live a life less ordinary. You can support this show by signing up for a paid subscription on our website, therebelrebelpodcast.com, with every penny going towards sharing the remarkable and inspiring stories of our guests. Check out Rebel Rebel wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And if you're a rebel with a story to tell and you're interested in being on the show, just shoot me a note to the email address rebel@therebelrebelpodcast.com. Thanks so much and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Rebel Rebel. I'm Michael Dargy, and sitting across me at a very safe distance is Jeff Mooij. How's it going?
Oh, great. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Jeff, I want to... oh, man, there's so much stuff I can't wait to get into. And Jeff, for those of you that don't know, is a leader in the cannabis industry. Kind of worldwide, could I say?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Right on. So, Jeff, I'm not going to do your story the justice that you're going to do it. Could you just give us a brief rundown of sort of where you've been and, a little bit about what you're up to? And then we're going to dig into the dirt about how you got there.
Okay. So you want a little bit of the start? Okay. So really my start in the cannabis world started probably for me is maybe my first introduction to cannabis. Okay. And being a guy who grew up in Ontario, I'm a little older. I'm 50. Sure, 51 now. So anyway, there wasn't a lot of cannabis around when I was a kid. Yeah. And it wasn't until I moved to Whistler and moved out to BC on my own, that I got introduced to cannabis and the cannabis lifestyle. And what I mean by that is just no hangups. Right. It was mind blowing for me, and it took a lot to grasp. And it's a funny story. We'll go back to Whistler later. But that was my first introduction to cannabis, and I'm not a big drinker. I can't drink. I have like an aversion to alcohol. I'm allergic to it. So, cannabis was a godsend for me, especially someone that maybe I have a little ADD. I'm not really sure. I'm just very active. I need to move. Yeah. And cannabis helped. And then about 2013, I lived life in between there, and the laws were changing. And I started paying attention to that. At the time, I owned a bar. Okay. I didn't know that. Which one? Titans. Okay. Up in the Northwest. And I had one in where the old Crusoes used to be in the north end of Calgary also. Okay. And 2013 was a big year for me. The laws are changing. I was paying attention to that already, and I'm looking at this and what they're doing right now. And I'm like, God damn, this is an opportunity for us as a country to legalize this. Like it's monumental what they're doing right now, because these are the baby steps that are necessary. So I got really excited. Yeah, this was the medical was coming in. Yeah, you know what? We've been able to prescribe cannabis in Canada since 2001, but nobody knows that, right? No way. Yeah, for real. But not real cannabis. It was pharmaceutical. Okay. So it was cannabis that was turned into a pharmaceutical, which isn't as effective. Right. Cannabis needs that entourage effect. So it needs all the properties of the plant. Okay. When you start stripping it down to pharmaceutical, it's not as effective at all. Interesting. So this was a change to help the medical patients get better access to a better product for them. And I'm like, oh, wow, are they really opening up some doors here? Like, this is truly interesting. And I just lost my house in the flood in High River. I was a single dad, the sole parent of my kids at the time. Yeah. I had identical twin boys. They're like 9 years old. We just lost our house. Oh, my God. We're living at my ex's brother's place on the basement floor. And I had a coffee that morning and said, it's time for wholesale life change. I'm going to get into this cannabis thing because it's very interesting what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is somebody giving me a kick in the butt right now. I'm ground zero, basically, is how I felt at the time. So I said, forget it. I'm going to get out of the bar industry. I'm tired of it anyway. And try something new. And this was brand new. So I just kept going, and no idea how I was ever going to make money from it. No idea what I was actually doing. And I still remember walking around in my living room talking to Tweed when there were only 4 people working there. Wow. And they're kind of doing the same thing, right?
Everybody's figuring it out.
Everybody's just sort of like, okay, we're just going to do this, figure shit out later, right?
Crazy. Oh, I love that.
It was interesting. So I started making phone calls like I'm somebody. Right? I'm just a dude in Alberta sitting in his living room, no money, no nothing, and people are starting to listen. So I just kept doing it. Got rid of the bar, got out of there. Started looking for places, and my mom's a nurse, still a registered nurse. I think she's 74 now, which is insane. And a lot of family members that are doctors. So I started talking to them all about this and what I was thinking. They're like, "This is actually a pretty good idea. I mean, this could go somewhere." So I just kept pushing, and I was lucky enough to find a lady that would rent to me, because that was very difficult. So she was a landlord that's sort of out of the box. You know, I walked in, she had ice cream tattoos on her arms and, you know, kind of blue hair like yourself. And I'm like, she might understand what I'm saying to her.
Oh, that's cool.
So I was able to get the clinic leased and then licensing, and that was a trouble.
So, and just to bring people up to speed, that's the 420 clinic.
420 clinic,
here in Calgary. It was like the first of its kind.
First of its kind, correct.
And you weren't selling product, I don't think, right? You couldn't do that yet.
All we were doing was consulting. So it's just strictly an avenue between cannabis and the doctors and the patient.
Right.
And
helping navigate what that means, right? Because
exactly. It's in the system and how to get a license and how to do all these things. And it's not just, it's about the strains too that are important to that patient.
Sure. Like the terpene profile, and
every patient is different and everybody's ailments are different. And, you know, this isn't the cure for, you know, I'm not going to say for anything. I think it is for some things, but it is, it's new and it's scary to doctors. And to be honest, the College of Physicians here in Alberta was maybe one of the worst with supporting this, and scared the hell out of the doctors. So, man, it was a hard push, but it was the oncologists at Tom Baker that really were first to break the ground.
Oh, good.
So they could see from their patients that were going through chemo how this helped them. Yeah. And man, did things start breaking open at that point in time. And you know, I was able to start advertising and getting some patients in, and it was a wave. Yeah. And it was truly interesting to see. And to be honest, at the time I was doing it, still, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. And I don't know where my direction is.
Right.
But wow, as I starting to see some things, I'm starting to help some people, and, you know, people are coming in hurting at the beginning, and the staff, it was hard to take. And it's not like a regular doctor's office. People weren't coming in there. You know, I have an ailment. Can you take care of this? Sure. In and out. They're coming in with their whole damn families. And how can you save my dad? How can you save my mom? How can you, you know, make the quality of their life at the end here better? You know, and it was tough. It was emotionally draining for sure.
No kidding.
And I had to constantly remind the staff at the time, like, things are going to turn around. You're going to start seeing the positives here soon. It's not just all these sad stories. It started happening. And fairly quickly, and the positive stories from the help that we were giving them, and the snowball effect from that, and it really made us and myself feel proud of what we were doing there. To be honest,
that's great. Yeah, well, I think it demystifies a lot of what we didn't know. Right. So like myself, I went to you guys. I didn't know you back in the day, but I had insomnia. Like really, I couldn't sleep, and I think it was. Forget who told me about you. So I went and, you know, got an appointment and met with one of your people there. And it was such a positive experience. Like it was like just totally demystifying everything and be like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. That's how you work it. It's, oh, sweet. Now I've got to go see this doctor. And that was, you know, my experience was that one doctor only lasted 3 months, and then you've got to see a different doctor.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate. But I mean, they were really, the fear mongering was really, you know, some doctors would still push, but I mean, that license for theirs is important. So they protect it. Yeah.
Well, I get it.
I do too.
Yeah. So did you run into, because you weren't selling any product, did you run into, did the law give you trouble? Like,
right away.
Really?
Oh, right away. I was, and I was very forward about what we were doing.
Yeah.
And the police right away said, you know, you're going to get arrested and thrown in prison for 10 years.
What?
I'm like, Okay, how about I come down there and let you guys know what the actual law is right now, because it's changed.
Yeah.
and
oh my God.
And I'm not actually selling product there. Right. Yeah. So people need to understand that part too. Like, we were legit. We weren't one of those illegal dispensaries. We weren't like sign up with this illegal dispensary in BC thing, nothing like that. We were 100% legitimate. Mm-hmm. And it took some time for them to understand. I think my favorite experience, though, was literally going to the city and walking up in the DP department and, applying for a license. I tell the lady what I'm applying for, and she looks at me and she's like, sorry? I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is legal, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, wow, I think I need some help here. So it got her, supervisor came in, explained it to him, and then it was like it was a process, and it was a great process because the city was supportive, and they were actually really supportive, which was great. But they also really had a yearning to learn about what was happening. So I got really connected with, different members that worked with the city and helped them and educate them about what was coming forward. And then I just took that and went wild all over wherever I could. I want to educate. I want to help you guys. Because if this is changing, Trudeau gets elected, everything changes rapidly. And, my 10-year plan went to a 2-year plan, let's get into the dispensary business quick. And now it's all about licensing. It's all about restrictions. It's all about whatever happens here. And there's no laws written yet. There's no AGLC booklet for this yet. There's nothing. It's all brand new and all has to be built.
How exciting.
It was chaos and exciting, but very exciting. And I love being able to help. And I love being able to go in there and talk to government officials and doctors and whoever I could and explain the good and the bad, because there's both. Sure. So, and I think my brutal honesty all the time was refreshing. I wasn't in there pumping the cannabis parade. No, there are negatives to this. So let's pay attention to this and let's try and avoid some of the negative things.
Navigate your way around it.
Yeah. And most of the negative things that come from the cannabis is usually the way it's legalized. Oh. And the implications of what you've just done. So I really need to explain, like, the smoking bylaw is one. Yeah. And the effects of that alone and how it can affect the infrastructure of your city it's mind-boggling. So, and it was one thing, and I don't even have an answer for it. And I struggled with it, even when, I spoke to a lot of officials in Colorado, and we'd sit down and we're, okay, you go this direction or you go this direction. It's not about making people happy. It's about the effects of that law and what it does. Interesting. And Colorado really saw that first and foremost. Wow. You make it a really strict smoking bylaw, but you make cannabis legal. You have a conflict here. Right. Especially if there's tourism. Sure. What are they going to do this? Yeah. Right. So you're driving people now to edibles because there's no smoking involved. Now, edibles, without a doubt, should be the last place that people start with cannabis, right? Because you have no control. Yeah. You're on that highway for maybe 8 hours of fun, but you're not used to it. That's a bit more intense. So I think it's very important to pay attention to this. So I really struggled and worked hard at making sure that everybody had an idea of what was really coming at them. Wow. Crazy. So you said Colorado, because were they one of the first down south? Yeah, absolutely. And I worked with a gentleman that was down there that helped build the program down there, and he eventually ended up working for me. Oh, wow. He was phenomenal. And the connections down the States and everything that was happening. Yeah. It was really neat to see. And the trend's no different here than it was down there, except stock market. And that's the only difference. So, interesting. Yeah. And it made it even more chaotic, obviously. Everybody knows about the cannabis stocks and what happened. It was not realistic. Yeah. And that was the thing that was the outside liar from the norm. Yeah. And I think that was just here. And I think now as it legalizes in different countries, we probably won't see the same thing happen. You ended up getting some challenges with the police because they didn't know what the laws were. Yeah, which is fair. Yeah, absolutely. They were indoctrinated to do a certain thing for so long. For sure.
what happened with the underground side of this? Like, was there an issue with, like some of the, sort of criminal aspects? Like, did you run afoul of the bad guys, quote unquote?
You know what? I never really worried about that too much because I'm not legalizing it. Canada is.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not the focal point. Cannabis is.
Sure.
But I was a very big guerrilla marketer, and I am, and shameless. And I sort of forced myself to be the expert here in Canada, or whatever you want to say, Alberta. I don't care.
Yeah.
I forced that issue. And so I also became a target for, I call it ISIS cannabis.
Really?
Yeah. Well, there's extreme people on both sides, right?
Okay.
And, I don't live in either one of these camps. I'm right in the middle.
Yeah.
But I would have protesters. I had death threats. I had, I was followed home by several organizations.
Oh my God.
I had to move. I had to add extra security. Had to talk to principals about, kidnapping issues. It was a different world, and it was very chaotic, and I became more of a focal point than I probably expected.
Right. And so how did you navigate your way out of that? Or is it just a matter of just continuing doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I just honestly, I just keep pushing forward. I think one of my best buddies, Cato, he said it, and he worked with me. Well, we built this, and I remember him talking to other people about what we're doing, and he's like, Jeff just doesn't think the same way as other people do. His level of risk and the normal person's are two different extremes. So
right. He's got a very high tolerance.
Yeah. I got a very high tolerance for that kind of stuff, and stumbling blocks and there was a myriad of them coming at us nonstop. They were putting walls up from the very beginning. I didn't even look at them. I just walk around them. Just keep going. 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 Because it really doesn't matter, because nobody knows what they're doing right now.
Right.
And the laws aren't even done yet.
Wow.
So just keep going. Just keep going.
Were you able to influence any of the laws or how things happen now regionally, or like was it?
I would like to think that I did.
Yeah.
I worked a lot with a lot of different provinces to help them, to give my advice, to give my opinion. For someone that was already actively legally involved in this, running the clinic and moving towards dispensaries. And with my travel and experience and knowledge that I've gained, I was able to navigate, push forward, and get through a lot of these issues. But there was a lot of them.
Yeah, I bet. What are your thoughts on the producers? Like, because we have, I think, there's the big ones.
Yep.
That are out there. And if you go buy product at any one of the dispensaries, you never know how long that's been sitting around in a warehouse before you get it. Is it about the product? Like, can you talk to me about that?
Well, it's a very naive market still. So, and it's a very new and everybody's there's still growing pains, and there's still growing pains with licensed producers. Now they went through it a lot quicker with the licensing and stuff. But honestly, I think the growing pains still are there for them understanding the cannabis industry. I mean, you have people that were, ex-CEOs of Coca-Cola International now running a licensed producer facility, never used cannabis in their life, don't understand the customer base. And it's a business thing. And I get that, but you have to have a marriage of both to understand the business you're getting into.
I would think so.
You can't treat it like bottled products. You can't treat it like that. And that's sort of the mantra and thinking of a lot of these LPs and all the liquor companies, the major ones, they're all going to get into this if they haven't already, because they're losing market share, right? So we're going to lose market share on the alcohol, which they never have before. We're going to take it up in the cannabis space, but then they go into the cannabis space with that alcohol mentality.
Right.
And it's not the same.
Well, because you can't advertise the same way. You can't market it the same way. You can't package it the same way. You can't,
then the customers aren't the same.
Well, the customers are very different. Like
completely different. Yeah. So you can't go in there with the same plans, the same things you did in alcohol, because they don't work here. And I think it's a struggle for a lot of them to understand that. Now, the evaluations were all ridiculous. It was going to crash. Like, it was inevitable. But because they just can't make grow enough to make the value of what their company is right now. It doesn't make any sense. And and to be honest, most of them don't even know what they're doing and growing. So,
and I mean, because we're allowed to grow privately now, the effort it takes to get a plant to produce anything is quite something. It's
a lot of work. It's fun because you get to watch this thing. It's different than making wine. Like, we can make our own wine and beer and stuff too. Hardly anybody does it. I mean, we can make our own cannabis. Hardly anybody will do it because, like you said, it takes time and effort. I think it's a lot more fun because you get to watch it grow, and it's like a baby kind of thing, right? It's just a lot of effort, and it'll have some odor maybe, or depending on how you take care of it, that sort of stuff. But if you can go to the store and get it, it's just going to be easier for people, just like alcohol in that way. Yeah.
Well, and what are your thoughts on? Because I've got all these different ideas about cannabis, because, you always, I'm just saying always, people buy from the person they've always bought from before it was legalized. And, oftentimes they'll continue to buy from that person or those people. And they're used to a certain strain and they're used to a certain quality. And then, these other producers come up and now you can buy it retail. Do you think that there's a disconnection between producers and retail? Like, is the experience about the product, or is the experience about buying it now?
Well, the experience will always be about the product at the end of the day when the customer uses it, but the experience is really more on that retail level than anything else. And the producers know, but they, it's got to be difficult. There's so many of them. And how are you different than anyone else? Like,
right. Well, and
like you said, if you're accustomed to a certain experience before, and your experience is different than mine, obviously, because I didn't have a guy that I knew.
No, I wasn't saying that I had a guy.
You know what I mean? But I think my experience, once I, first learned about cannabis, was, here's your $40, here's my bag.
Right.
I don't know what it is.
Sure. Yeah.
And at the time, I don't think I cared.
Sure.
And honestly, I'm not sure it's any different now.
Interesting.
Right? The same mentality. Like, I'm not sure I really care where this came from.
Yeah.
It's safe and legal now.
Yeah.
It gives me the same effect.
Right.
So it's got to be difficult for the licensed producers to get their name out there and all that kind of stuff. It has to be. But it's a learning curve for everybody. Still, the customers are still just as naive as everyone else.
Right. Even
people with experience like myself, you'd still walk into a store and there's like a laundry list of items now. And you're like, just what's THC around 19?
Right. And this is where
what she hands me, I'm not really sure I care where it came from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. And to that end, are like the bud tenders, because these are the people that sell the product.
Influential people in the market.
Right.
The most.
Interesting. Because I ran into somebody, and I won't talk about their store, but I bought seeds because suddenly you can buy seeds now, but they knew nothing about seeds.
No.
They knew lots about bud and flower, and
that's got a lot to do with the store though also, and who's running it, and their level of education they want to give it, or even their own level of education, because we're also still a very new market. So there's a lot of people in this industry right now that have very little to no experience with AGLC before.
Totally. Right.
Dealing with any kind of controlled substance, legal controlled substance, dealing with the laws behind that, but looked at it as an opportunity and went for it, got successful in opening a store, which is kudos to them.
Yeah.
But then here we are again. Your experience may be different from this store to this store to this store, because there's different ownership and different, how much am I going to put forward to this if I don't know it?
Right.
How much, and I don't need to because I'm still selling.
And where can you get the education, and how much education do you have to give people?
Yeah. And when the bud tenders are the most important, but the most underpaid and most cyclical, you're wild. Constantly training, right? Because they're just paying the minimum wage, a lot of them.
Wow.
So, you have a minimum wage job, you do it as long as you need that job, right?
Yeah,
and if you get a better job somewhere closer, you take that. I mean, it's not your life. It's not important. You're paying a minimum wage, but the frontline employees, they have the most influence. There's no doubt about it.
So you're not with 420
no
anymore, and you're looking at doing a new thing.
Yep.
Is this something that you're looking at maybe doing differently? And I don't mean to put you on the spot because who knows, but if do you have the opportunity to reshape now retail?
Oh, for sure. I don't have to be first. I just have to do it better. Right. I was already first.
Yeah.
I did it the best. Yeah. Now I'm going to do it even better. And it's about how you shape it. I learned a lot, obviously, through that experience. And maybe what my initial plan of what a dispensary was to what it is now is totally different, which it is, because at the time when we were building it, we had no idea and no idea of laws. And, I actually had a guy, all he did was a couple times every day, look at the AGLC book, see what changed. Because what happened in the morning is different than the afternoon. Like, you have to pay attention to that. It was changing every day and they were constantly updating. So it was affecting, okay, we can't do that. Look, now we have to change that. Like,
holy,
it was chaotic. It would be one week after another. You'd be like, that was the craziest week. Right. And then you'd like finish another week. That was even crazier. And then it just kept going and going. And it never, like, it was.
Do you think it's stabilized now? Like,
sure, that part's stabilized without a doubt. Yeah. You have the actual laws, you have actual booklet to follow, that kind of stuff.
You have training, you've got to do
everybody goes through their very basic training to get qualified to be a worker in this industry. Yeah. It doesn't provide them any knowledge or breadth of knowledge of what they're about to sell. Yeah. But, you can legally do it. So.
How would you hire a bud tender? What would you look for in the ultimate bud tender? And somebody that you'd pay maybe a little bit more than minimum wage, or maybe a lot more than minimum wage. What does that look like?
Personality.
Yeah.
And there's lots of it. I mean, there's no lack of personality of people who want to be in the cannabis industry. And I think maybe I'd have to see it this turn around again, going through it, because I'm going to experience different type of people come in and apply for the jobs. At first, it was new to everybody. So every walk of life, everybody that wanted a fresh start in their life was showing up. Yeah. Now I think it's sort of settled down and people realize it's, if I'm going to bust into this market at a bud tender level, it's going to take me forever to get anywhere. Yeah. So maybe it's kind of changed. I don't really know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think...
but paying them better is important.
I think so.
Yeah.
Especially if they're the most influential, right? Like,
absolutely.
Got to recognize that.
Absolutely.
Is there a risk in working at these places, like a retail place where you can't travel? Like, now you've been the face of cannabis for a while, so you probably are on a couple lists.
I am. Definitely. I have a lot of issues going to States. Not so much now that things are like I'm shut down out of that stuff. But I used to do things like I would say, okay, well, we're going to end up here in the States, but let's travel to here first. Right. To make it not look like I'm ending up there. Oh, wow. Never worked. Never worked. I got quite accustomed to, at U.S. Border Customs. Yeah, they got to know me quite well.
First name basis?
Yeah, first name basis. And it was great because every time, and I traveled down there a lot. So, it was usually questions like, we have to stop you, right, dude? I'm like, yeah, I know. Let's spend some time together. I'm like, okay. It's like, hey, I got an aunt. Can you, my uncle, my aunt, my brother, my sister, have issues. What can that was how I spent most of my time at.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I think anybody working in this industry shouldn't worry too much about their ability to travel. I mean, if I can, you probably can. Right. But I can understand the scariness of that from before, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we heard a lot of news about, if you ever are stopped, don't admit to anything. Right. It seems like it's weird.
Yeah. I never agree to that policy because then you have to follow that lie forever. Right. So I would just be brutally honest and see what happens and go from there. Right. So I missed a flight for sure. Yeah. I spent a little bit too much time in Homeland Security once and totally missed that flight. And what's ridiculous is because I've already went through customs. Yeah. I have to go back through customs to go back to book another flight and then go through customs again.
Oh my God.
Right? Obviously the red, you can't come through again. The guy's like, yeah, you've spent enough time here. You just keep going.
Hilarious. Yeah. Do you think that overall, people have calmed down
for sure,
about the whole cannabis.
World end.
Yeah.
You can look outside, and other than the fact that the fires, that smoke is not from cannabis. So, yeah, I think everybody's calmed down. I think everybody realizes, oh, wow, it didn't really change my life in any way. It didn't affect crime in any way, except for the positive, but people don't realize that yet.
What do you mean by that?
Well, here is an interesting stat. You are not comfortable with cannabis. What do you think is going to happen with impaired drivers? It's going to go up or down? Up. It's going to go way the hell up. That's what you're thinking, right? You're terrified.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Absolutely terrified. More high people on the road than ever before, right? It's going to be a disaster. Colorado did very good at tracking those kinds of things. Yeah. And after legalization, before it was 2% of impaired drivers were cannabis related.
Oh, wow.
Afterwards, didn't change at all.
The same 2% are going to do what they're going to do.
Just doesn't change. And I don't know if it's the cannabis culture. You've never been driving before, not used to that.
Yeah. Why would you?
And honestly, it's not different than alcohol. And speed is scary when you're high. 40 kilometers an hour is fast. Let's slow this down, right? So you just don't have the same issues. But people are expecting the end of the world, and it didn't happen. So it's calmed down, and now it's a legit business, and you see people making legit business money selling cannabis, and why not?
Yeah, that's great. What are the 5 things that you think people need to know? It doesn't have to be cannabis related. This is just right out of Jeff Mooij's brain. 5 things that you wish people knew.
5 things I wish people knew. That's interesting, because I'm not even sure I know those things. I think to continually learn and experience and have an open mind, I think is the most important thing, especially with something like this. Yeah. And honestly, this is going to break open other doors. So be prepared.
Ooh, okay, right? Let's dig into that. What does that mean?
Well, it didn't take long before even legalization wouldn't happen. The discussions were happening about mushrooms.
Oh, right.
Okay, so should they be legal? Well, yes or no? Why not? Right?
Yeah, why not?
It's organic. It's similar to cannabis. A lot of people microdose to help them with things. Yeah. So here's the next step. Where does this go? Where's Canada's comfort level? I can tell you what mine is, and it's cannabis. I'm good. Yeah. Like, I don't need to go any farther here. We don't need to legalize acid or anything else, right? We just don't need to do that. I don't like shatter and all this other stuff. They're all just brain grenades. Maybe that's just me. I don't need that. I like to relax and enjoy it, but the rest of this stuff is intense, but this might break open some doors, right? Yeah. Okay. So people need to start thinking about the road we've taken and where does this road go?
Did we start on that road though with alcohol? Isn't it kind of like an inevitability?
Sure. Always, cannabis has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So
we had opium for a while. That was a thing. For sure. Cocaine was a thing. Way back.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Are we going to legalize cocaine?
Let's hope not.
I don't know.
Well, it's legal for medical purposes, for cauterizing.
You talk to those anesthesiologists and you're like, the stuff that they do on a daily basis, it's mind blowing what they're putting into people's bodies, right? And the recreational world, I don't know if we need to go down that.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, what's number 2? Number 1 is keep an open mind.
I would say mountain and molehills, and to figure out what the difference is. You see a stumbling block, keep going. It could be a lot bigger or a lot smaller. You just don't know. I mean, if this is in front of you, figure out a way to bash through it, around it, manipulate it, change it, make it work for you. If I stopped every time I had an issue, I would have been done in 2013, like almost, a second the cops told me they were going to arrest me, right? But
oh God.
Oh my God, what am I doing? No, I think that's important. It's just, if you got a plan and you're confident in it, and just keep going. Don't destroy your life for it, but yeah, I think you have to have that get going. You gotta get at it.
Right on.
Everything else, I think, in my life, I'm a dad, so everything else in my life centers around my kids.
Right.
Not a lot of free time, so I'm a very big believer in life should be a series of adventures launched from a secure base. So nice. I provide the secure base. They can be as creative as they want.
Nice.
And
that's number 3, by the way.
Yeah. There we are. How about that?
Yeah.
I try and, I guess when I look at myself, I've pretty much lived that mantra. I'm not sure I ever had a secure base, but I lived a series of adventures, and that's just my personality. So I think that's important. And
that's good.
And life and work balance is extremely important.
Number 4.
Yeah, I didn't do a very good job with that.
I'm terrible at that.
Yeah, I'm horrible too. But developing this was obviously very chaotic, and then you get money involved, and you get all these other things involved. It was a super chaotic environment, and I was traveling a lot, and my kids are great, and they understand, and they were proud of me, and they got to see things. Day one, my kids are there watching me open the store. They thought that was exciting. I'm putting my arms up like woo, and my kids yelling in the background, "Dad, put your arms down. You get old man elbows." I'm like, oh, Jesus. Life-work balance was important, and that's always a struggle for me, and it probably always will. I have to make sure I make that important.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, last one.
Oh, let's see. Say, what are the 5 things you wanted from me again?
Just things people need to know. I mean, it could be, how to roll a joint properly. That could be a thing.
Jesus, I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, that's a skill.
I am very lucky that I have a woman that has nimble little fingers. she can make these. And Cato, my right hand for a long time, he never smoked a joint in his life, but he's like a level 9 origami joint roller. Like, unbelievable.
So maybe number 5 is surround yourself with
people that are smarter than you and can handle things better than you. And surround yourself with every aspect, the naysayers and everything else. Like learn, because when I say I'm not the ICEs of cannabis, very pro cannabis, very extreme the other way, no.
Yeah.
But I probably am a little more pro than no. Yeah. And so things that I think are okay, someone that's a little more conservative that's never done this will be scared, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
I loved having Cato, who didn't understand cannabis, there to tell me, wait a minute, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, watch. Yeah. This will work. And, he slowly started to understand that. But when I first bought the ambulance, that's a great
I love
example.
That.
So
that ambulance is so
it's
dope.
Awesome. Yeah. So we go, because I am super cheap in a way. And anyway, so we had the clinic, and I had to get a desk for Cato and this doctor who just sort of joined us. It was just awesome. So I'm like, I'm just go to Alberta Surplus. I can get a desk there for $5, right? So let's do that. So we go to Alberta Surplus and see these ambulances there. I'm like, and I stopped and I just started looking at them. And Kate was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh my God, we have to get one of these. I can see it right now. I can envision this." Yeah. And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no." I obviously didn't listen to him and got it. The best thing I ever did for marketing. Like totally. It was unbelievable. And I made it look like an ambulance. I eventually got in trouble for that. But
you leaned into it.
Yeah, I leaned into it. And I was in the gray, pushing as much as I can. As much as I was trying to be legit with officials and everything else, I was playing this weird line where I still have to appeal to the cannabis market.
Sure.
Without making it look like I'm appealing to the cannabis market for the politicians, right? They needed this. There's some weird.
What a balance.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And I started thinking about some periods of time. I was walking on my property, and I was thinking at one point in time, I got so many things going on right now, and like juggling so many different things. I'm starting to lose track of what I told them, and, because they're important in different ways.
Yeah.
So, and every province was doing it differently, which was probably the worst thing for Canada,
Yeah, no kidding. If you were, so this is one of my favorite parts of the show. And those 5 things, by the way, are kick ass. And any one of those 5 things could be this thing.
Yeah.
But there's people out there in the world that are in 2013 with no house and a single dad trying to decide what to do next and see an opportunity and they don't know how to take it. There's people who are, living the 2020 post-COVID lifestyle, figuring out that, their world has now changed in a way that's never happened before. And they don't know how to start or do something. Call these people rebels in waiting. And what advice would you give to those people to help them on their way?
Jump off the cliff.
Just fucking go.
Take that step, man. It is hard.
Yeah.
It is really hard. It's really hard. Especially when you're in those situations. Like when I made this, I don't think I should have.
Really?
No, for real. I'm a single dad, sole parent of my kids. Mm-hmm. And what the hell am I doing getting in the cannabis industry? Like, give your head a shake, buddy. Like, this is not a good path for your kids if you're arrested. Like, it's not a good path for your kids if you're going to struggle forever or, but I don't know. Like, that step's important. It's hard. It's a mental block. Like, I'm probably going to go through it again here myself. Yeah. Not just with that. I just, I have this ruptured Achilles that I've just.
We haven't even talked about that.
So I think that I'm going to have a mental block when I'm actually kind of having to make my first friggin' step. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
literally and figuratively.
Yeah. So it's literally kind of the same. And I'm going to have to do this again now. So I think the first step's so important. And it's difficult to take. It really is. Especially when you're looking at your kids. I mean, you want security now. Like you want that warm blanket and you want to hug everybody in there. But when you do that, you're throwing blankets away. There's nothing warm. You're going and it's hard. So you gotta have faith in the people that are supporting you. Yeah. And listen to people that are telling you things. It's not easy.
Would you have done anything differently? Do you think, like in those early days?
I would do 1,000 things differently. It's unbelievable. But at the time, you don't know any better.
Right.
And, if I had only known where it would have ended up and what I would have done differently, sure, there would have been a lot of changes. But at the time, everybody's making mistakes.
Sure.
And I'm not even sure they were mistakes.
Right.
They're a mistake now when you look at it, but at the time, that was a good decision. Yeah. 2 days later, damn, that decision sucked, right? But that's not my fault. The law just moved and pivoted a certain way. Now everything's different, right?
Yeah.
When we were going gangbusters at the beginning and then they shut down all licensing.
Right.
Who would have thought that was going to, what effects is that? Oh my God. It's just, I would have done so many things different. I would have hired different people.
Yeah.
I would have, because a lot, it's a leap of faith and it was so busy. It's like, look, I'm hiring you for this. See you later.
Yeah. Do the thing.
I'm barely going to talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't have time. Right. So I relied on a lot of people and really heavily.
Yeah.
And it was a new experience for all of them too. So, I would have done a cajillion things differently without a doubt. Yeah. And the only thing I probably wouldn't have changed was the name.
Yeah. Talk about nailing it.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. Especially since I was the first one.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how am I going to relate this to cannabis? Like I want to open a marijuana clinic. Yeah. I can't say marijuana.
Nope.
So, hey, 420 works.
Yeah.
The cannabis people will get it.
Yeah.
So we'll go there.
That's awesome.
And then, other things, I tried to trademark 420.
Yeah.
And I think I told you that before, but I felt guilty about that. Like, that's terrible. I shouldn't be allowed to do that. Like, that's 420's owned, I think, by
the culture.
Yeah, for sure. And here I am trademarking it business wise. I just give me a pit in my stomach, excited at the same time when it got approved. And it's like, what's wrong with me right now? It's really a weird balance,
It is a weird balance.
Yeah.
God, yeah, business is weird.
It really is. Yeah. It really is.
Business made it weird.
Yes, business made it weird. Money made this whole thing weird.
Yeah. So this craft cannabis, that's coming down the pipe. Pun intended.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you timeline wise? Like, what are you excited about doing with this?
Well, geez, I'm not sure I can even answer that question, because what I'm excited about is what happened this morning in a meeting that I don't even talk about yet. So maybe if we get an opportunity to do this again,
we will have you back.
Then I can tell you what happened and what I'm truly excited about. But it's a time thing. So right now I'm really working at the fundraising aspect, which I think is almost done here. And then at the timing, I have to go in front of HLC, licensing, all this. I've done it before, so I'm fairly confident I can do this again.
Yeah.
And then the retail, and it's a play that's going to last a couple of years. And I'm hoping to be active in the new year.
Nice. Oh, wow. So you're just going for it.
Yes.
Stepping off the cliff.
Stepping off the cliff with my ruptured Achilles. It's a big jump for me.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my God. So let's talk about, let's put business aside for a minute.
Sure.
How did you bust up your Achilles?
Stupid. I do stupid well. It's what I'm told almost on a daily basis now because of this.
Yeah.
I was just moving a vehicle that was dead, and I'm trying to build another fence in the backyard, and I'm old and shouldn't have done that. I think the hardest thing for myself is realizing I'm 51.
Right. Body doesn't work the same
there,
way.
but my head, I'm still 20. I am a slow learner, I guess, on that. So I've had a lot of injuries in my life, snowboarding a lot and other stupid things as a kid. But this is very frustrating. So
so you got a walking cast, just to paint the picture for people in podcast land. You got a walking cast, but your toe is pointed like a ballerina.
I'm like a ballerina right now. Yeah. So and every week I get a wedge out, so my foot will eventually get to more of a flat normal thing. But
it's like totally detached, right? So you don't have any flex at all in your foot.
I can't move my foot. It's just frustrating, and and I look at it and I'm just like, let's get this toe. Toes are moving. Foot just doesn't want to move.
Weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I don't like it at all.
All right, do you spend any time with Netflix or Amazon Prime? Do you watch like shows? And if so, what's your binge worthy show recommendation?
Well, we just finished watching Raised by Wolves, which was weird.
Oh, no, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, I like weird. And it's a totally off chart thing of a robot trying to raise kids and something after Armageddon happened or something. It's just a really weird show.
Okay. And
I'm sucked into it because it's so strange. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, I love that. I love my mind. Like, that's great, So I look for things like that, like off the chart weird shows, and there's lots of them, which is great. I love Amazon. They do a lot of good shows. Yeah. I like Jack Ryan. I like that espionage stuff. Yeah. So and I'm a history kind of guy too. I love World War II stuff and history. That's really, I get off on that kind of stuff. So
very cool.
I binge worthy Raised by Wolves. That is a weird show.
Okay. Awesome. Weird. What is, and we'll end here. What's one thing that you haven't done yet that you need to do before you're done?
What, in the cannabis industry or life?
Life. before it's all over for you, whenever that happens to be, hopefully a long, long ways down the road. What's something you haven't done yet?
See, what I haven't done yet and what you can do now are two different things, right? Yeah. So for me, it'd be more like travel. There's a few more places I'd like to see, and like to go to. And I don't know if you can do that kind of stuff anymore. So
the world has changed.
The world has changed. And really the only thing I want to see is all of my kids growing up and be happy.
Nice.
One of my kids said, I just asked him, what's your goal in life? And he's like, I want to be an old man telling my grandkids stories. That's my goal too now.
Damn.
Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Right. So
that is wise.
Well, he's a weird cat. For sure. When I yell at him, I can see your crack. Go get a belt, for Christ's sakes, kid. He goes out and cuts one off the tree and makes one. Like, this is a different kid, right?
Yeah.
He's super smart, but a total meathead, just like his twin brother. So it's a struggle with these two. But I just want to see, I'm not really worried about my achievements. I don't really care about that. I do things because I'm excited about them and I like doing it. Yeah. At the end of the day, do I want to be recognized for it and stuff? I don't really care about that. I do a lot of things that I don't tell people about because I'm not looking for the credit.
Right.
I just don't care.
Nice.
I don't know why. I really don't know why. And
sometimes it's just about the doing, not about the telling, right?
Yeah. And you do volunteer, you help someone, you do whatever. And I feel, for me, I'm being more genuine when I don't tell people about what I did. Right. Because I'm not looking for the accolades of it. So when you talked about, the business side of this, I spent a lot of time educating not just the government officials, but, hey, buddy, you want to open a dispensary? What do you want to learn?
Right.
Like,
helping other people out.
For sure. I think it was paramount to the success of this industry for me to help all these independents that were going in there without AGLC experience and knowledge about what they're doing to help them. Yeah. So I really enjoyed that part. Maybe more than anything else was helping the independents understand what they're about to do. The leap you're taking, here's the steps you need to take after that leap. So I loved that part, honestly.
Would you, and I think this is a great place to drop this, is that offer open currently to have people that are currently in the industry or about to, to connect with you, to ask stuff? Like, how available can you make yourself, or do you want to make yourself?
100%. So, and I still have it. I still have people contact me and ask me questions, and I have no issues with that. There's plenty of room in this market for everybody. Yeah. And the better they do, the better I do. Yeah. Is the way I think. Yeah. Because this industry needs a good step forward and a good foot forward and the right people doing this. And the more I can help, the better off everybody is.
That's awesome.
But I recognize there's also an opportunity there. So maybe on the next podcast, I can explain that a little bit more, because that's another angle that I'm using.
I think that this definitely begs a continuation once you kick off.
You want to hear something funny? So if you asked me an earlier question, just popped in my head. What would you do different? Yeah. Weed Girls. What? and it was a brand that I was trying to grow that was female centric. Okay. And more of a younger female demographic, I'd say, definitely. Yeah. But I wanted it to be a wholesale lifestyle choice and everything, and run by females. And here's a great thing about this industry is there's more females in this industry, I think, that are influencing than what I've seen in any other industry. So they're really jumping in, and I love that. Yeah. So I know there's a buy-in, and I have nieces and stuff that are coming of age, and I think, and I thought this was a good brand to start pushing forward. Yeah. And who knows where I could put that brand, but it's super cool. Yeah. It went nowhere. And that's why legally I actually couldn't use those two words, weed and, girls is probably not. If it was maybe weed women, I maybe would have went farther, but it didn't work the same.
It's like baby gap, like weed baby.
Yeah, weed baby. Like there was a disconnect there that people didn't get. So that went nowhere. That's maybe one of a few things that I tried to push that it sounded fabulous at the time and pie in the sky, but didn't go anywhere.
Right. Oh my God. So Weed Girls, great idea. Yep. Didn't execute for a variety of reasons.
Yeah. It actually, like, when I was executing, it was doing really well. Oh, okay. This is before everything was legal, and we were pushing brands, and I go to conferences, and it was Weed Girls, right? Yeah. It was extremely popular. Oh. And I was selling t-shirts and all kinds of stuff, like tons of them. Like, it was super popular. So I knew there was a buy-in for it, but didn't go anywhere legally.
Yeah. Well, you've got some, maybe it'll make its way back somehow.
Oh, well, I doubt it. Girls is really hard to get past.
Yeah, maybe you just have to do a little pivot.
Yeah.
Possibly. Where do you, what's your process with ideas? Do you just sort of chase down things willy-nilly? Do you have a barometer?
Ideas. To be honest, I think I'm a kind of a creative person to begin with.
Yeah.
And when I had some issues at the head office and everybody, working together, all A-type personalities. So I went to a gentleman who helped us and cohesively understand our different personalities and nice. Points of things that, these are trigger points for this person and that person. Everybody had a different color and that kind of stuff. Okay. And it was extremely effective. And I'm a hard yellow, apparently. That is a creative person. I like to think over the top of things. And so ideas for me can come from anybody. And I like to take that pyramid and turn it upside down and funnel those ideas from the people like the bud tenders who are at the bottom of the pyramid in the corporate structure. But in my mind, they're maybe the most important for idea generation. So flip that thing around and have those things funnel down. Anybody that talks to me about anything, it's not a bad idea. It might not work. Yeah. Maybe there's a good idea somewhere in that idea. Maybe it's a couple of ideas inside that idea. I don't really know. So I love the free flow thought and patterns and thinking and let's get in a room with a bunch of people, good, bad, and indifferent, and talk about this and put it up on a board and start mapping this. When I first did all this, I had so many different things going on in my head that my biggest investors, I can't follow it so much. Let's put this on paper and put this on boards. And I had all these boards in this massive meeting room, all the way around the entire room. These boards that were 8 feet high, and I just filled with stuff, and that was my brain on paper. I'm like, it looks different now.
It looks much cleaner in my head.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I like that one. I don't like that. I like that one. I just don't know where the hell it's going to go. Yeah. When did I come up with that again? We'll put it aside for now. Yeah. Over here, ideas, I love them. And you get them from the weirdest places.
If you're paying attention. Right?
Yeah, if you're paying attention, there's tons of people that give you advice. Even the ones that are giving you advice that, this sucks. You shouldn't do this because of this. You started thinking about it. I'm like, they're not wrong. That's their experience. Now, how can I make that a little different for them? That might change their mind. And one of the things the Alberta government did, sort of off the topic here, is they did a study about cannabis to the general public here, and they had a great response. People were really responding to it. A little bit of information after a few questions was a monumental wholesale change in the way people thought about cannabis.
Really?
Because they went in with a mindset. Yeah. They answered a few questions. They got a few pieces of information back at them, and then their questions changed entirely.
Wow. So
their feelings, it's just a little bit of education. So I was really educate. This is what I wanted to do. Yeah. And then, of course, at the same time, I'm shamelessly branding myself because I'm driving around the 420 clinic ambulance, right? I drove that thing everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
I did donuts in the Sobeys parking lot. I mean, I'm a little bit nuts that way. So that thing was the best advertising I ever had, and that was just an idea.
That's awesome.
I love ideas.
So you're launching in the new year, which is cool. So we need to have you back to find out what the hell you've done.
Yeah, this should be interesting. Yeah. It should be really interesting.
I get this very strong sense that there's things afoot right now in your world that you're super excited about.
Very.
And you really want to talk about.
Yes.
But it's still a little early.
A little early. Yeah. I can't let the cat out of the bag entirely yet.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll leave it at this then. The invitation is there to have you come back in the new year. And, 2021, It's got to be better than 2020.
How could it not be?
And I'm so excited to see what you've come up with and what you're up to. So I can't wait to have you back.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks. Jeff Mooij, Rebel at heart. Oh my God.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for listening. You can listen to all of our episodes with links and show notes at RebelRebelPodcast.com and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Speaking of which, don't forget to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.